Hello, everyone. It is now the second half of 2018, so you know what time it is. It's time to make some predictions about what was going to be released in music this fall. Now, the fall has increasingly been every year a period of time where lots of record labels want to rush out and release albums, sometimes a little prematurely, and in a lot of cases, very much delayed. This is a big trend that I'm seeing year after year where every fall we have more and more artists releasing on the same few weeks right around, Halloween, Thanksgiving. September also gets usually pretty filled up. It seems to be they want to get as close to the actual winter holidays as possible without actually releasing right in front of them. This seems to be a marketing trend to push things. A lot of people, retail sales are always up in the last quarter of the year. So they think the best time to release albums, which is a dying art form, unfortunately, in terms of commercial CDs, which are not selling like they used to, is to try and put them out during the busiest and hottest quarter of the year. This is completely a money grab, cash cow kind of idea scheme that does not benefit artists in any way, in my opinion. I am increasingly getting frustrated seeing how so many artists delay their works because of their record label to wait until the fall to release albums because it's a better time commercially to release them. We really get a cattle shoot, and it means there's a bit of an oversaturation in terms of music coming out, which makes it hard for you to pay attention to all the music that's coming out. Increasingly, there are always, especially around November, certain Fridays where we have like 6 albums coming out that are huge. And it's like, how can you pay attention to all of these at once? Like, it's overwhelming. Why can't this be more evenly spread out throughout the rest of the year? Especially considering we're seeing summers becoming increasingly duller in terms of album releases. In the last few years, there have not been a lot of big summer releases, and everyone's been waiting till September. Also, the winter is pretty dull as well. There's a little bit of a boom in the springtime, but it's all about the fall. And I have a feeling that this year is going to be no different to previous years, and that this year we are going to see increasingly more and more albums released within the same 3 months of September, October, and November. So I am predicting a perfect storm. Now, be that as it may, I'm not going to complain. This is great music for everyone. It's very exciting that we're approaching, but it's very overwhelming. And I really would love to see things spread out a little bit better. I think if an album is good, it's going to sell just as well, whether it was released in the middle of July or if it was released right before Thanksgiving. It's really frustrating how the record labels just seem to be increasingly more obsessed with money and sales. And what's even more depressing is when I see music artists worrying too much about that. They're sacrificing their own content and delaying it for sales and charts, which is really not what music artists should be in the business for. I mean, you're still getting a decent amount of money unless you're very under completely non-mainstream, then your record label is obviously not worried about releasing at a certain hot week. They're just going to put it out. So this is more directed at, the bigger stars because they're still playing this game, and I just think it creates oversaturation. So that being said, I'm looking at a bunch of artists that I have written here. Some of them have been confirmed to be releasing artists this fall. We have a few albums already announced. Of course, if you already know, of course, August is already looking pretty busy, which is pretty unique for August. Usually August is another kind of slow month before things really pick up in September. We have Nicki Minaj on August 10th with Queen, a highly anticipated album. And then the following week, we have Ariana Grande with her album Sweetener. So these are 2 pop albums that are huge albums that I was predicting would come out in 2018. If you watch my 2018 predictions video I made right before New Year's, Nicki Minaj's album was one of the 3 hotly anticipated albums I had for this year. Ariana's was up there as well, but there are 2 other artists who are definitely coming this fall that it does pain me a little bit to say that this is the second time I'm including them in a fall predictions video because a year ago I made a fall 2017 predictions video where I put a lot of these artists in there, and fast forward a year, well, there's still no album.
What? What the f?
They're still saying it's coming soon, and it's like, who do we believe at this point? It is very frustrating, and it makes me think, what am I even really basing any of these facts on? But I've done my research, and based off of just how these artists have been talking, I am really certain that new music is imminent from a lot of artists upcoming, including 2 big artists that are extremely anticipated. especially for me. We also have Troye Sivan releasing his album Bloom, which I believe was pushed back way too late. That album should not have been pushed back as far as it did, especially since it's a really short album, but whatever, we're finally getting it on August 31st. We are also getting a Meghan Trainor album that day. Not so excited about that one. Don't expect me to be reviewing Meghan Trainor on this channel, because I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. But I am excited for Troye. We have Carrie Underwood. She has an album called Cry Pretty, which is supposed to come out September 14th. She really announced that way far in advance, back in the spring. So we know that that is coming. And Liam Payne has also said, of course, this was several months ago, things could change, that an album is coming out on September 14th. Now, these aren't artists I'm like madly obsessed and looking forward to their music from. I'm sort of touching on a lot of artists I also don't necessarily review on this channel, just because I'm always interested, and there's always interesting songs that do come out from some of these artists. Just because I'm talking about them in this video doesn't mean I'm necessarily going to review their full-length albums. We'll see if that does come to fruition. I am not a Liam Payne fan, but his album has been long delayed and been teased to come out for a long time, and it is supposed to come out in September. We also have an album by Zayn, Zayn's second album, another One Direction ex-member. His second album has been delayed for a long time. He's been releasing singles for quite some time, which is a recurring theme that you will see with a lot of the artists who I believe are releasing this fall. There are going to be artists who have been releasing singles for years with no album to yet come from it. And it's been really frustrating, this trend in the music industry. We saw it with Fergie last year. She finally came through with Double Dutchess. We've got a lot more artists that will be doing a similar thing, where they'll be finally releasing albums with songs on them that were released years ago. Another big artist that is in that category is Jennifer Lopez. Jennifer has been dropping Spanish singles for a year and a half now. Her latest being Dinero featuring Cardi B and DJ Khaled, a song that I actually think is kind of a guilty pleasure. I know the song's not doing very well. I think they wanted it to be bigger than it was, but I think the song is kind of fun. But she's also released more pure Spanish singles, Amor, 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 El Anillo, and her song Ni Tu Ni Yo, featuring Gente Zoa, which I loved, which came out last summer. Her Spanish album, Por Primera Vez, has been talked about for a long time. We know she's been very busy. She's doing a Vegas residency. She has an NBC show. She has World of Dance. She's got all this stuff going on, but this album should be coming out sometime in the next few months. It could even be coming out as early as next month. We don't know, but I do believe it will come out this fall. Azealia Banks. She has just finally sort of come together and finished this record, Fantasy 2, The Second Wave. This album is hotly anticipated to be coming out sometime in the next few months. She's talked about just very recently on Twitter how she's finishing up the last 2 tracks on this record. She has just released the album artwork yesterday. So this album is literally ready to burst, and she's been teasing it for a long time with a slew of singles, Escapades, Anna Wintour, and now the latest Treasure Island, which I love, by the way. Treasure Island is really good. I did review Anna Wintour on this channel, and I loved Anna Wintour. I loved the beat and the disco vibe it had, but Treasure Island is a beautiful blend of all of her styles, and it really sets a tone and a sexy ambiance that I do love. So I am very excited for Fantasy 2. I hope that all the controversy that she stirs up on Twitter does not deflect from the rollout of this album, and also, you know, the promotion for it to some extent, even though she's always going to be a little bit snubbed by the mainstream. That's just a given. So Lady Gaga is in an interesting position here. We know that we have A Star is Born being released on October 3rd, directed by Bradley Cooper, where she stars along with Bradley as 2 main roles in this remake from that 1950s movie that is going to be a really huge movie. I talk of Oscars in the running. I think that either Bradley or Stephanie are going to get some sort of accolades for this film, and I am very much excited for the Star is Born soundtrack, which I predict will probably be released a week before the movie comes out, so we're probably looking at the last week in September for this soundtrack to be released. We'll probably get the pre-order for it probably a month before. So that's coming up soon, which is very exciting. This movie is going to be huge, but a lot of Lady Gaga fans, in fact, all Lady Gaga fans, are waiting with bated breath to hear something about her 6th studio album, which has been teased throughout the, Joanne promotional cycle. Personally, I still do not believe that Lady Gaga has music coming as soon as a lot of people think for her 6th studio album. I think we're still going to get A Star is Born first. I don't think it would be smart for her to release new music at the same time as A Star is Born. It's going to detract from A, her new music, but also from the film, and I don't think she would want to do that. It's a little bit oversaturation. A lot of fans think she's going to do the two at the same time. I'm like, I don't think so. I think we're really looking more into 2019 territory here for Lady Gaga 6. But I did talk about in my 2018 predictions video that Lady Gaga is a big question mark. We don't know where she's going, not just in terms of when she could release new music, but what that new music is actually going to sound like in terms of genre. Is it going to be a lot more like art pop? Is it going to be more like The Fame? Is it going to be more like music like A Star is Born? We're not entirely sure. One thing I think can be certain, it's not going to be exactly like Joanne. She never repeats herself. So it's probably not going to be country. I am excited, but like I said, I'm not holding my breath for Lady Gaga anytime soon. A Star is Born is what is imminent and on the horizon. Grimes has talked about actually having 2 albums in the works, one of which she is certain is going to come out this fall. The other she's not so sure of, one being more of a collaborative, more poppy work, and the other being a much more independent, darker album, much more experimental, the latter of which I am much more excited for. Who's to say what will come of it, but I am eager, and I'm very confident that we will hear at least one of these Grimes projects, whether it turns into be an EP or a full-length album, what have you. I am very confident that we will be hearing a new Grimes project this fall. Lana Del Rey is an interesting one. She's talked about having new music coming out soon for quite some time now, and to be completely honest, I've been kind of glad to know she's been laying low for a little while. She just finished up touring for Lust for Life, and I really did kind of think she was releasing albums a little too soon upon each other. I really feel like she needs to take a little bit of a break. I mean, I love Lana's music and I love that she keeps putting out albums. But after Lust for Life came out, I was kind of thinking maybe it would be time for her to take a bit of a break from music for a tiny bit, or just take a little bit longer to craft her next project. But she's talked about making an EP that's going to come out really soon. There is still a very good chance that Lana will at the very least drop a new single this fall, if not another EP or even another album. Who's to say? She always kind of does kind of come out of nowhere. Another artist that has been heavily rumored is Melanie Martinez to release her sophomore album, which is highly anticipated this fall. So we will see if that comes to fruition. We haven't really heard anything yet, but there have been hints dropped. Rihanna has talked about making a reggae-styled album, and we are really waiting for the follow-up to Anti, so we'll see if that's going to be coming this fall. A lot of people are predicting that, but again, not so sure. Britney Spears has come up on the radar recently. There was actually a lot of people who thought she was going to come out with a new single back in June, which of course never happened. But a lot of people are saying, she's going to be releasing a new album by September. I think that's a little overconfident, and so if we do get a new album this fall, I'm not surprised. I know she's definitely been working on new music, but an artist that I am very excited to see where she's going next is Madonna. Madonna has talked about being in the studio with Merways, a producer that she worked a lot with on American Life and her music album. And she's been teasing working on her 14th studio album for quite some time now. She even performed a bit of a new song at the Met Gala back in May, which made me think, oh my god, we're getting new music really soon. Well, fast forward several months and no, nothing has happened. But I do think this fall we're going to start to see the rollout for her 14th studio album, which I'm a little bit concerned to see where she's going to go. She's going to be 60 next month, and I really want to see her mature a little bit in terms of possibly making music that is a little bit more reflective, a little bit more soul searching. I know she's gotten a lot of flack in the past for making music that's very political. I know she's worried, she's very amped up in this current political climate. There are things she could say that could get her in a lot of trouble. So I know she's worried about constantly flirting with controversy, especially now that she has children. But at the same time, I really would love to see her create an album that has the staying power and the presence of records like American Life, like Music, like a Prayer, and like Ray of Light. So we shall see. Will we be getting another kind of frivolous dance pop record from her where she's pretending to be a teenager? Or will we get something that's a little bit more classically inspired and a little bit more mature and a little bit more focused on her vocal talent? I'm hoping the latter, but we shall see. I think it'll definitely be a somewhat political charged album. I don't think it couldn't be in this day and age. Marina and the Diamonds. Now, I had not been expecting new music for her for a while. I kind of put her out of my mind. I didn't want to think too much about her because I know she said that she was working on a lot of other things after Fruit. But she just came on social media a few weeks ago to talk about wrapping up her fourth studio album and how she's starting to get it mixed and mastered to hopefully release this fall. So that's looking very likely at this point. And I am very, very excited to hear what her fourth studio album is going to sound like and the direction that she is going to take. So keep your eyes peeled on Marina. One Republic has just released a new single. I'm not in love with it by any means, but it does make me think probably we're going to get a new One Republic album this fall. It's a little soon after their most recent effort, but at the same time, I was not in love with that album either. So I definitely would hope that there'd be some improvement upon their next record. This would be their fifth studio album, I believe. And, we shall see. But I wouldn't be surprised. Now, a artist or duo group that has been teasing music again for literally years is the Swedish duo Iconopop. Where is their album? Where is their official sophomore album? It has been teased and talked about since 2016. They keep saying they're working on it, they're working on it. They said it all throughout 2017. They're saying it now still throughout 2018. It's getting a little bit frustrating. It's like, how long does it really take to make a dance pop record? Are you really pouring that much emotion into making these pop songs? Did I Love It featuring Charlie XCX really take that long to make? Now, I'm not slighting Iconopop by any means. I'm just saying their style of music is not the kind of music I would expect to take years and years and years to make. So it makes me think they're probably crafting up something very different and very worthwhile, hopefully, not something that feels like it's kind of generic and something that could be created very quickly. So I'm a little bit puzzled by why Iconopop has taken so long. They have released several singles over the years, one of them being Bright Side, which at this point I don't think is going to be on their newest album, but I do love that song. And I am very eager to see where Iconopop goes. But again, I'm in fall, possibly next spring, maybe, sometime in the next year for sure. We have got to hear from them. Let's see. Mariah Carey has talked about being in the studio and possibly releasing a new album this fall. That's been heavily rumored, so that's possible. It's been a while since her last record. I believe 5 years. 21 Pilots just cryptically resurrected themselves and are teasing new music coming imminently, so I have a feeling we will be getting a new 21 Pilots album this fall. I'm not a big fan of their music. Again, I'm just stating the facts. Of Monsters and Men. Now, they've been a bit under the radar recently, but if you remember last year, throughout 2017, they talked about and showed photos of them working in the studio. And in my 2018 predictions video, I talked about them extensively. I really am confident and pretty sure that we will be at least hearing a new single from them by the end of this year, if not actually a full-length album around Christmas. So I am thinking, Monsters and Men might be starting to come back in the forefront any day now. But, who knows? They may take a lot longer with this record, and I might be completely wrong. If not, for sure 2019, but I just had to include them on this list. Now, an artist I know a lot of you probably are not familiar with, but one that I have reviewed on this channel is a Norwegian electronic producer named Amethystium. That's not his real name. His real name is Oystein Ramfjord. He has been talking about recording his, what I believe would be 7th studio album. No, it would be his 6th studio album. His follow-up to 2014's Transience record for quite some time now, and at least 3 years talking about making this record, and I am hoping that we at least start to hear about that sometime soon. So I am keeping an eye peeled on Amethystium. He's very reclusive, though, and obviously he's not mainstream, so who knows when we might hear from that. It could still be another year, but it does feel like we might be getting close to that. Demi Lovato has just released a new song titled Sober. I will link a description. I review it. It's a beautiful, stripped-back, emotional song. Is she bringing a new album out this fall? A lot of people are speculating she is. It is a little bit soon after her album that came out last fall, I will admit. But at the same time, Demi has released albums back-to-back before, so I'm not entirely, surprised that an X-Act would do something like this. And hey, it's at least a year. I'll take it. I'm happy to hear new Demi music, especially if it's more emotionally driven music rather than just creating party bangers. Nothing wrong with that, but I would love to see a little bit more of the vulnerable side of Demi come through again. I think we've lost that a little bit on our last 2 records. Let's see here. I think I've covered a lot of the sort of I don't want to say not as big artists, but let's just say there are several artists that I am highly anticipating for this fall. And these are artists that I think I can say with 100% assuredness that we will be getting albums from. Selena Gomez. Selena has been delaying this record for eons, and unfortunately it was largely due to health issues. She had a kidney transplant last fall. She is recovering, but she talked about recently in an interview how it kind of changed her whole life a little bit. She wanted to withdraw a little bit from the LA rat race. She actually decided to move away from LA, get a little bit out of the spotlight because it was getting a little bit draining for her. I do believe that she had originally planned, when she rolled out Bad Liar and Fetish last summer, to release an album last fall, but her kidney transplant kind of derailed that whole entire plan. It's unknown whether Bad Liar and Fetish and Wolves featuring Marshmello are actually going to be on whatever her newest album will be. I hope they are, because I really don't like artists just leaving singles dangling, but at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised, since it has been a year since those songs were released, if she did decide to just sort of move on, release all new material for a new record this fall. A lot of people are speculating that she'll release a new single in August to release the album sometime around October or November. Hopefully this does come true. She's talked about there being an album for a long time, but she's also been very coy about it. So maybe she's trying to build anticipation, but I definitely believe a new album is coming. And one of her makeup artists, I believe it was, or someone she worked with closely on Instagram, kind of dropped the tea that there was an album coming out this fall and that it was worth the wait. So that kind of confirms it. The Green Children, again, another under-the-radar indie alternative group that I stand forever and I love and I talk about on this channel, are highly anticipated to release their third studio album this fall. They have talked about releasing an album in 2018 quite a lot, and very recently they keep talking about new music being imminent. So I know I talk about them in my 2017 fall predictions video, and because it was the same story last year, they have released some songs already. I don't know if those songs are going to be on this record, but hopefully they are. We shall see. Like I said, similar with Selena, if they decide to drop them, it's okay. But I do like when an era is sort of all tied together. I don't like homeless songs, but, a little pet peeve of mine. So I am very excited for the Green Children. Their music takes me to another world, and I really need it at this point in my life. So I am very excited. Their last album came out in 2013 in the summer, 5 years ago. So it is time for them to release a new record. Norwegian fairy tale artist Aurora. Now, she has released her newest single, Queendom, back in April as the official lead single off of her sophomore album, which she has been talking about for about a year, that she says she wants to release this autumn. I'm hopefully going to hold her word there. I'd be really disappointed and sad if this album didn't end up coming out this fall and she ended up pushing it back. Now, I can just say this. I have heard some live performances of unreleased songs that are supposedly going to be on this record that she's performed, and they literally have blown me off my feet. They have made me realize this girl's immense, immeasurable talent in songwriting, in vocal performance, and instrumentation, and in storytelling. And it just has me so feverishly excited to hear this record. The follow-up single from Queendom, I'm hoping we are going to hear for the next few weeks. She's talked about releasing a few singles before the album does finally come out. There was recently a leak of a video that was supposed to talk about the album, that she actually posted something on Twitter that was very not her character, which I did some research and found out why. She's a bit upset that someone leaked this information, as it is very private and secretive at the moment. But at the same time, I can't blame, if it was not on private, then it's the record label or the video distributor's fault, not the fans' fault. We are so eager and excited to hear the follow-up to All My Demons Greeting Me as a Friend. I hope she's not that mad, because I know some artists, when things leak, get really pissed off and decide to cancel ideas or push things back. I really hope Aurora doesn't do that. I really think it's disingenuous to the art. So this is just me airing out my worst case scenario thoughts. This isn't going to happen, but Aurora's second album is coming this fall, and it is coming to save humanity, basically. It is going to be one of a kind. So that brings me to my other two big anticipated artists for this year. They are Avril Lavigne and Curly. First, let's talk about Avril. She has just posted on Instagram that she is finally filming the album artwork. cover. How exciting is this? She has been talking about on Instagram, working on this album since 2015, and we are finally at the ending, wrapping up stages of this process. This album is coming this fall. The album is coming out in 2018, and Avril Lavigne's sixth album, I think, is going to be a very unique album to one she's done before. It's going to be a bit more mature, a bit more back to her rock aesthetic. I'm very excited to see where it goes. I could be wrong, but this is just me kind of predicting where I think she would want to go. She's got a lot of personal stuff to talk about. You know, her battle with Lyme disease, which came up to the fore right after her last album, and her breakup with Chad Kroeger. All of these things that have happened. She's got a lot of emotional mining that could have been done, and I'm very interested to see what kind of album she has crafted, because I know it'll be glorious. And last, but certainly not least, we have Miss Curly, the Estonian pop avant-garde electronic wizard that she is. Her highly anticipated, long-awaited sophomore studio album. It's technically her third project if you count her EP in 2013, but it is only her sophomore studio LP. That's follow-up to 10 years ago, Love Is Dead, which, by the way, was released 10 years ago yesterday. Isn't that insane? This album she has repeatedly talked about now being definitely coming to the finishing stages and definitely being planned to be released this fall by the end of this year, by December 31st, 2018. She's basically promised this.
Love you guys. It's honestly just so incredible how you have stuck with me through all these years and through my very sporadic career. But I think as far as our plan goes,
it's gonna be worth it.
It's gonna come out this year.
It's gonna be amazing.
So it will happen this year. It's gonna come out this year.
It's gonna be amazing.
So it will happen this year.
Gonna come out this year. It's gonna be amazing. So it will happen this year.
Now, knowing Curly, it's really hard for me to get my hopes up about these kind of things, because she has promised release dates for this album before. 2016 was pretty painful, let's just put it that way. So it's hard for me to want to get my hopes up too high. She's released several singles and then nothing. She talks about wanting to release a few more singles, possibly before the album is even released. At this point, it's sort of like you've released so much of the album. The only things we do know for sure, she did say that most of the music from the Feral Hearts era, the 2016 era, will make it onto the album, but she didn't necessarily say all of it will. We do know that Blossom is definitely on this record, as she did answer that question and confirmed it. I would assume Feral Hearts would be as well. I would be silly not to include, as well as Diamond Hard. The songs that I'm not so sure about are Spirit Animal, which was more for Eurovision back in 2017, as well as some of the, bonus material she created, like the a cappella version or the piano version of Feral Hearts, and also the ambient track Journey Through the Elven Kingdom. I think that's what she meant when she said not all of it will be on the album. Those songs were just bonus material for Pledgers as she was working on this record to sort of satisfy our thirst. All in all, I can't even tell you how badly I need this album in my life. We still don't even have the album title. This is something that I know her last album was only 5 years ago. In Curly time, that's like yesterday, because Curly's just works on a different time schedule. But we've been literally some Moon Children waiting for this album for 10 years. 10 years. Let that sink in. Because Utopia was very different from Love Is Dead. It was very different from the Curly that I fell in love with. That was a little darker, a little bit more twisted, a little bit more magical and escapist. Not that I didn't like Utopia in every form, it just was not the album I was looking for from her. Talk about it a lot in my Utopia review. Her second studio album, and I am going to call it her second, even though it's technically her third project, it's basically the answer I've been waiting for years and years and years, this being a Curly follower. And a Moonchild. And I know all of us can, agree this patiently waiting thing has driven us literally insane. To the point where I've had to kind of forget about Curly at some points. I mean, she makes it easy because she doesn't really post on social media much anymore. But it's kind of been frustrating, especially post-2016, when it was so promised. People pledged music that an album was going to come, and then she pulled the plug without even telling us until after the due date had passed. That did not leave a good feeling in my stomach. It really felt, I understand things happened. She felt like it wasn't ready. She was, stretching herself too thin. There was probably financial reasons. But she should have been more open and upfront with us about what was going on behind the scenes. And to this day, I still really wish she would be a little bit more open and honest about what's going on behind the scenes. She's very, very secretive about this. And, you know, it's one thing if you don't want to tell us the album title or any hints about it, I get it. But could you at least update us more often about what's going on? So her latest update back in early April really got our hopes up, but it's been several months since we've heard from her since then. We know she's been in Estonia working on finishing up the album, filming sets for music videos, getting the album artwork shot. I have a feeling we are going to hear from her very, very soon, in a matter of weeks possibly, about a new single. It could be literally tomorrow. I have no idea. That's how literally on the edge we are to this new album. It's just frustrating because at the same time we are closer than we've ever been, it still feels like we're just as far away as we were years ago because of the distance she's created between the fact that she's not on social media nearly as much anymore, which I understand, good for her, but the fact that we still feel so in the dark about this project, we still don't even know what it's called. So I know I could rant about this for a long time. This isn't meant to be against Curly or anything. It's just the wait for this album has been arduous and difficult. I know I am so excited for it, and I'm excited for most, if not all, of these artists to release new projects. There's plenty more that I could have covered, but these are just sort of the ones that I kind of had thought of at the top of my head that I was most excited for. So let me know if there's any others you know of. Comment them in the comments section, because I don't know everything about music, and there could be something coming that, you know, I completely forgot. But we're looking for a pretty busy fall, I think, in terms of music, and a pretty busy August. I think August through December is just going to be like every week, big artists releasing albums. I think it's going to be mental, honestly. But that's what you have when you have like slow periods, like July is very dry right now. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. And let's hope that all these predictions do come true and that a lot of these albums are really indeed coming soon. We shall see. Only time shall tell. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please hit like and subscribe if you did. Thanks again. Have a wonderful, blessed day. Peace, love, and light. Bye.